Calvin Pace right into Anthony Fasano's lap, who was in
I
line
did
blocking.
see that.
Crawls into the end zone, touchdown, Chiefs, LOL, Jets. It wasn't quite butt fumble,
No,
but it was pretty good.
It was very Jets-esque.
Mm.
I liked it. Yeah, I saw that actually on the replays last night, and it was...
It's also ironic, too, because Alex Smith is trying to get the ball to Dwayne Bowe in the red zone. The Chiefs still have 0 touchdown passes, two-way wide receiver through 9 weeks.
That's craziest stat ever.
Which is amazing when you first hear it, but not so amazing when you realize who they have at wide receiver.
That's true.
They are terrible. I mean, when Dwayne Bowe is your number one, you got issues.
Well, and Dwayne Bowe was good at least, but yeah, not so much anymore.
Yeah, and also speaking of not so much anymore, let's get into who's going to hold on in their respective divisions and who's going to come up, sneak up on some people. So starting in the NFC East, currently Philadelphia is pacing it at 6-2. Dallas is not far behind, 6-3. Giants 3-5. Washington, RIP at 3-6. Claire, who ends up winning this mother?
Gosh, I mean, Philadelphia looks like they are doing well, but now Sanchez is in charge.
Sanchez.
And that's a concern. At the same time, I don't know if I trust Tony Romo's back, and I really don't care about the Redskins or the Giants because whatever, they're not doing anything this year. I would have to say that because the offense in Philadelphia was so crappy, and yet they still have won so many games all season, and now Foles is out with the broken collarbone. It feels like Philadelphia can probably make up for a lack of production on offense should that occur. And maybe they'll get their running game back at some point. We know that they're talented at running back. They simply haven't been playing like they're talented at running back. So whatever's happening there has got to change with Mark Sanchez at QB.
Yeah, and it does sound like Sanchez would be a downgrade, but Foles wasn't playing that great before he got hurt either.
He wasn't. So, yeah, I mean, and their defense isn't, like, ranked that high statistically, but they just have this big play potential on defense where things happen on special teams for them, and it makes up for that lack of quarterback production. And maybe the Sanchez, switch to him at QB is not going to hurt them as bad as it sounds like it would when you initially hear it.
Agreed. And I got Philadelphia win that division as well. I think Dallas will keep it close. We'll see. We'll see how long Tony Romo's back can hold up when he gets back in the field, and also if DeMarco Murray can hold up since they're just pounding the hell out of him.
Right.
Yeah, but I like Dallas locking up a wild card, though.
Yeah, I could see that definitely happening.
NFC North. Detroit is leading 6-2, the black and blue division, as it were.
How is Detroit's record so good when it seems like they're such a bumbling team? You know what I mean? They just are like,
that defense
I feel like there's a lot of mistakes.
Is this year.
It is. You're right.
And all it took was Jim Caldwell, steadying hand to get away from the Jim Schwartz kind of three-ring circus, and they're playing really well. And they're coming off a bye. They get Miami at home. That's going to be a hell of a good game. Didn't think it would be at the beginning of the season. And they do already have a win over Green Bay in their back pocket. I don't know. A lot of crazy things can happen. They're early in division at 6-2. Green Bay's behind at 5-3. The Minnesota Fighting Vikings 4-5. Chicago at 3-5 as well. And I still think that Green Bay is going to pull this out, though.
I do, too. I'm not. The way that they turned it around after looking so crappy the first few weeks, and then Aaron Rodgers is like, hey, everybody, relax. I'm Aaron frickin' Rodgers. And the team just turned it around magically and has looked really strong. Now, their last game, of course, was against New Orleans, and they did get shellacked. But at the same time, I feel like Green Bay has the ability to turn it on when they need to. And hopefully not hopefully, but so that my pick is correct, hopefully. They're able to do that against Detroit when they meet again, and they take the division. I think that's the team to beat, honestly.
I think so, too. I think Detroit will stumble a little bit down the stretch, as I also trust Aaron Rodgers much more than Matthew Stafford. I trust Matthew Stafford as far as I can throw him. Even though he does get Megatron back, even though he does get Reggie Bush back.
And let me also point this out, is that Detroit and Green Bay meet again in Week 17 in Green Bay at Lambeau.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that should be, I mean, if we can hold off and these two can stay competitive the rest of the way out until that Week 17, that would be a fun game going into the playoffs.
Sunday Night Football at Lambeau Field. The snow is coming down. The people are drunk.
They're wearing cheese on their freaking heads.
And actually, just to go through my predictions, I think that game is going to decide who wins the North and who's going to be the second wild card.
Yeah, it very well could.
Spoiler alert. So I got Dallas and Detroit as my wild cards. What does that mean for the people out west?
That's what I was just about to ask.
We'll get to that. NFC South, who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah, Saints are just going to win, but this is an ugly division, and
Saints will win by default.
And it really sucks that they get a home playoff game because Detroit, Dallas, I think will be much better teams this season, and even heading in. And New Orleans, who knows what's going to happen in the playoffs.
And Arizona will be a better team heading in, too.
Arizona's going to get the 1 seed, baby.
They sure are. And then what else happens out west? Nothing? Everyone else sits at home, huh?
I really think so, because Seattle still can't get anything going on offense. I know they hated Percy Harvin and then they wanted to move him, but now they're really missing Golden Tate. I think that was their biggest loss over the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson on Sunday looked as bad as Russell Wilson has ever looked. Let's be honest.
They couldn't put Oakland away.
And Oakland, we've discussed it before, Oakland has a really bad time winning games, but they do play hard. They don't, roll over for anybody. Basically, mostly. Sometimes they do, but for the most part, no. And they played Seattle. They gave them a little scare. And Seattle, you go back to, I forget the time frame, but all the Super Bowl winners not making the playoffs the final year, you wonder, is Seattle going to add to that legacy, that recent legacy? Because it doesn't feel like they are fierce enough to come in and get into the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I agree. And San Francisco is just rumbling, bubbling, stumbling. They lost that terrible.
What is their deal?
The defense just isn't what it used to be. I think they definitely miss Alden Smith, and Navarro Bowman is coming back. Patrick Willis is out for a couple games there as well. And they lost their identity on offense because they cannot run the ball. This offensive line, which used to be the strength, is taking a big step back. Frank Gore is not himself. Kaepernick is making too many mistakes.
Can we just discuss the 8 sacks on one Colin Kaepernick by St. Louis this weekend? Because that's Colin freaking Kaepernick. He runs like a gazelle. What? 8 times. 8 times.
Well,
what's going on with that?
It's easy to sack a gazelle when you get a blind side shot at him, like Robert Quinn did a couple times.
Good Lord. And Robert Quinn finally showed up this season. I mean...
Yeah, the Rams came into the game having 6 sacks on the season, then they got 8.
Yep. It was amazing. So, San Francisco is not who anyone thought they are, and I think Harbaugh's mind is elsewhere trying to figure out his game plan for what happens when he's done in San Francisco.
Yeah, that could be it. And besides that, Colin Kaepernick fumble, quote-unquote, I think he broke the plane, but mostly because I lost by less than a point in my fantasy matchup.
Sucks.
Stat correction is coming on Wednesday. But just to recap, all right, so I have Arizona, New Orleans, Green Bay, and Philly winning their respective divisions. Arizona getting the 1 seed, Philly the 2, Green Bay the 3, New Orleans bringing up the rear at 4. Dallas and Detroit in the wild cards. Detroit get the 5, Dallas the 6. Sexy time.
If you say so.
Minnesota knocking on the door.
I would rather see Minnesota as a wild card for sure, but, I don't know. It'll take a lot from that team to overcome that division.
Trying to go head over head. I actually think we agreed on every single division winner and wild card there.
Well, I didn't ever say my wild cards. You just said yours and figured that I agreed with you.
Miss Guzzi. All right. What were your wild cards in the NFC, Claire?
Probably the same as yours, but you didn't ask. You just
AFC.
The AFC is the superior division. I mean, the superior conference this season. Finally.
AFC East, New England pacing at 7-2, but Buffalo, Miami 5-3, 5-3 ain't dead yet. The Jets are dead at 1-8. Who's winning this division, Claire?
Do you really think that Tom Brady, looking at the end of his career and how they're playing right now, is going to let them walk away with anything less than a division championship? No. They're winning.
Claire.
They're
Even
winning.
though Miami is playing tough, and they get to play the Patriots twice.
I don't trust Miami yet. I trust the Patriots. You know? That's why I'm picking the Patriots.
All right. AFC North. 1 through 4, this could be the best conference in football. Cincinnati is technically leading right now at 5-2-1. Pittsburgh hard charged and 6-3. Cleveland at 5-3, and then Baltimore on the bottom at 5-4 with a winning record on the bottom. Who comes out of this whole gulag of messiness in the AFC North?
If they keep playing this way, I can't pick against Pittsburgh. They're playing amazingly. I mean, their aging defense is doing things that I didn't foresee 3 weeks ago, basically. So if they're able to continue this, Pittsburgh wins. But, man, you're right. This division is tough. Definitely the wild card is coming out of this, and I don't know who it'll be. I have no clue out of the other 3 teams who the wild card will be, but it will be one of them. Heck, it could be both of them. I don't know. It's crazy talk.
Spoiler alert, one of my wild card picks is going to be the Cleveland Browns coming out of the North, baby.
You hope that Hoyer gets hurt and Manziel can play, don't you?
Nuh-uh. Pittsburgh is winning the division, but Cleveland is going to get a big step up this Thursday, beating Cincinnati at their place. Thursday night football, and Brian Hoyer bringing it. Extension time, or maybe just franchise tag. Who knows?
Yeah, Brian Hoyer, I mean, it's not always pretty, but he's been getting the job done.
He's like a more handsome Fitzmagic.
He is really attractive. I mean, Brian Hoyer is a good-looking dude.
You would.
I would.
All right. Speaking of wood, Andrew Luck. AFC South, Indianapolis Civil War General Andrew Luck is leading the Colts to a 6-3 record. They're on top of the South. Next up is, what is Houston Texans?
Yep.
At the
That's
4-5. Tennessee, 2-6. Jacksonville, 1-8.
Worst division in football.
Got a nice little cherry on top, though.
Yeah, well, there are. I think honestly, at this moment, Indianapolis and the Steelers and the Patriots are looking like the 3 most dangerous teams in this whole conference.
It's still only week 10, though, Claire, because I feel like some of these teams are getting hot a little bit too early. You know, like in Fast and Furious, you hit the NOS button too soon.
I guess so.
I've never actually seen a complete one of those.
No, I haven't either.
Yep. But Indianapolis, speaking of motor cars, Indianapolis Speedway, that's very smooth, is definitely running away with this division, and I don't think there's any wild cards coming out of here. Sorry, Claire.
No, I don't think so either.
Unless Tennessee gets really... No, just kidding.
Just kidding.
AFC West, Denver leading at 6-2. Already gave a smackdown to San Diego. They're third at 5-4. Kansas City still in the hunt for some reason at 5-3. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. And Oakland, unfortunately, is 0-8. But they play hard. They're going to be the most entertaining 0-16 team in history. Well, I guess there's only the Lions, and they were terrible.
They were terrible. They didn't play hard.
You know what? All right, so fun fact. The Lions 0-16, 2008. Their 2 closest games were against the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings won by a combined 4 points in those 2 games. It might be 5. I might be wrong on that, but that's just depressing.
It is depressing. I mean, that team was so futile.
Yeah, and they had Dante Culpepper. And Megatron was on that team, and that's the reason that they ended up with Matthew Stafford number 1 overall. So that's a double kick in the pants.
It was, that team was just awful. Awful.
All right, so back to the AFC West team that's not awful, the Denver Broncos, 6-2. I'm not too worried, even though they got their asses handed to them in New England. The 2 losses on the year were at Seattle and at New England, so you can't really fault them there, especially when Seattle was actually playing good in week 2. Yeah. And San Diego, I don't think they're going to make it for the wild card, and Kansas City is just very meh.